Today we are discussing our top 5 motorcycles that we think really need a refresh.
Yeah, most of the time when we're sitting at this desk, we're telling you about some fancy, shiny new motorcycle, but today we're going through some of the bikes that are a little long in the tooth and that maybe we wouldn't go out and buy so fast because we're kind of waiting for that next version to come out.
And that's not to say that these are bad motorcycles by any means, because a lot of these bikes are actually fairly affordable for what they are because they're older, but these are motorcycles that we would love to see some updates with because they at least have competition that is much more modern. And let's start out with number 5 on our list.
Yeah, which is the Kawasaki Z125 Pro. We can't do a list video at TFL Bike without covering mini motos.
Exactly.
So we have to put something on here, and the Z125 I think is the pretty obvious choice.
Yeah, that's right, because the first year that this bike came out was 2017. And, they've added some new colors since it was introduced, but that's about it.
Yeah, no major updates. It looks exactly the same as it did when it first came out many years ago. And then if you look on the other side of things, obviously you got to compare this to the Honda Gram. And yeah, that's had a couple extra years compared to the Z125 Pro. The Gram is older, but we're on the 3rd generation of the Gram now, and all 3 generations look very different, and Honda continues to improve the Gram.
Yeah, and the other thing, at least on this comparison between the Z125 and the Gram, is that pricing-wise, they're almost the same. In fact, the Kawasaki is $3,649 MSRP, and the Gram is $3,599. So it's a more refreshed bike with a 5-speed transmission instead of a 4-speed like in the Kawasaki, and it's ever so slightly less expensive.
Yeah, less expensive. You can get, you get a better screen. I think at least on the Gram, some people like the analog tack that you get on the Z125, but there's no questioning that when you see these parked in a parking lot, the Z125 is an older design that's been around a long time, and if I were shopping for a mini moto, I'd want the new shiny Gram. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a new Z125 Pro eventually because it's still a popular bike. Mini motos aren't going anywhere, and it'd be nice to have another competitive option to the Honda.
Honestly, it'd be nice if all the manufacturers got on that boat, but that's an argument for another day. Now for number 4 on our list, this one might be a surprise to some people, and I'll let you take it away because this is your area of bikes.
Yeah, this is the Yamaha R1, and you might be a little shocked to see a leader bike on this list, but let me explain a little bit. The Yamaha R1 that's out right now was all new in 2015, and yes, they've made some incremental changes as time has gone on, so some minor bodywork changes. It got some updated suspension and braking components, some very minor stuff, again, related to emissions components too. But same thing as the Z125 Pro. This design is just pretty old. And when you look at some of the other bikes available, like the Kawasaki ZX-10, which was fully refreshed in 2021, and the Honda CBR 1000RR, fully refreshed in 2020, the R1 is a little bit of a harder sell.
And again, not to say that the R1 is a bad bike. I mean, that CP4 motor is an absolute beast, and it's still a good-looking bike, this R1, but this is a category of motorcycles that is meant to be very cutting-edge, very high-tech, and all of these leader bikes have been really fast for a long time. We're not so much looking for it to be updated necessarily in that area because we don't really feel like it's lacking in that category, but these are motorcycles that, because they're meant to be cutting-edge, high-performance, at the bleeding edge, you kind of want it to look and feel that way. So if it looks very nearly like the same bike that came out that many years ago, then it's a little bit harder to get you excited about going into the dealership and buying one brand new when you could get one that's just a couple years old.
Yeah, exactly. And Yamaha's been doing a really good job with some of the bikes we've ridden this year with new, really colorful big screens and navigation built right into the bikes and improved quick shifters and all kinds of stuff. So, like improved joysticks for going through the menus and stuff. So it would be nice to see even some of that more minor stuff trickle down and to get some new bodywork on top of it. So if you do own a 2015 R1, you feel like you're getting something really fresh, at least from the looks of it, when you go out and get that new bike.
Now for number 3 on our list, we have the DRZ 400 SM, the Supermoto version of the DRZ. And this is a bike that could definitely use a refresh. I don't think people will argue with that.
Yeah, this is way before we had the bike channel. We went to the Denver Motorcycle Show, and I picked this as like my favorite bike at the show, and it was kind of a joke of the video because it is so ancient. And just looking at like the instrumentation and the big old square headlight on it, it is, I'm going to say it, it's boring. And there's some really cool supermotos coming out. We just covered that Ducati, which totally different class of bike, but I mean, look at the price of this, $7,900. You're not that far away from some of the crazy advanced, more modern supermotos.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some much newer bikes like the KLX 300 SM that you can get around that same price. Granted, this is 100 cc's more than the KLX 300, and that extra 100 cc's, you're going to feel it. But this is also a carbureted bike. It's 322 pounds, so it's not light. Yeah, you know, it's just an old school bike. I mean, anything carbureted that you can buy brand new is a motorcycle that probably could use an update.
Yeah, I mean, I just, for close to $8,000, I'd go out and buy a used Hypermotard or something, and I'd be a lot happier. So, yeah, it's a cool bike. It used to be a really, really cool bike, and it's just, I don't know, just gotten a little stale over time, so it'd be cool if they threw some modern tech at it. And I would love to see more supermotos available from dealerships, because there's not that many options if you want a factory supermoto. There's just not.
And again, I mean, I think the DRZ is still a great bike on the used market, but yeah, to go out and buy one brand new, just not sure why you would.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, number 2 on our list. This is a very, very dated looking bike. This is the Honda Fury, and understandably, bikes in this segment, they don't get updated all that often, which is fair, but something about the Honda Fury, its particular brand of styling just looks very mid-2000s.
Yeah, what's that TV show you always reference?
Orange County Choppers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It definitely has that look to it. And yeah, not something I have any desire to put in my garage at any point, but I'm curious to hear what the viewers think of that bike.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually ridden one, so it could be a fantastic bike to ride. It's got a 1312cc liquid-cooled V-twin, single overhead cam. It does have ABS, which is a good thing, but it's $11,499 MSRP, and that's before your destination, all these other charges. Really, at that price, you're not far off of some other motorcycles in the cruiser category that are much, much more modern.
Yeah. Like you said, I mean, do you know what year this came out? It was like 2000. I think it was the mid-2000s. It was.
I mean, it's what it looks like.
I think it was like 2006. Let's see. Quick Google search.
Yeah, let's see. I think this bike has been around since 09.
09. So a couple years off. But yeah, I mean, definitely has that look to it. And I think they're offering it in bright yellow right now, which further solidifies that mid-2000s look to me. The yellow and chrome just, I don't know, screams mid-2000s. So could use an update. I get that that's part of the vibe with that bike, but needs to be a little more exciting.
It feels like a holdout from a gone era.
Yeah.
Now, for number 1 on our list, we decided to do something a little interesting, and we kind of wanted to highlight really the whole sport touring segment, because this is an area of motorcycles that feels a little bit like it's been neglected. You know, it feels like it's been forgotten about. When was the last time you saw a press release about a new updated sport tour? I mean, I know the K1600 got the nice 10.25-inch screen from BMW last year, but a lot of these bikes, like the Yamaha FJR 1300, the Kawasaki Concourse, I mean, these are bikes that really haven't changed much in a long time.
Yeah, they're all really ancient bikes, and I think it's because of the kind of people that are riding these sport tours. They're just such practical motorcycle riders. They buy a bike that fits exactly what they need it to do. They don't buy it because it has the best tech or looks the best. It's just super functional, and it makes sense for their life. And then they own that bike. It's in their garage, and it works. So they have no desire to swap it out for anything else. And I think a lot of people hold on to their Sport Tours for a long time, and maybe sales numbers show that there's not a need to update them as much.
Yeah, and that's entirely possible. My dad actually has a FJR 1300 that I've ridden when I've gone back home and visited, and it's a good bike. It's comfortable, it's powerful. I mean, you could crush miles on that easily. So it's not a bad bike. But this is a segment that I think could use some of that more modern technology and especially styling trickling into it, because these are not inexpensive motorcycles. A lot of these hover around the $20,000 mark, at which point you would kind of expect something that's had a little bit more love given to it by the manufacturers in the last decade or so. So it'd just be nice to see a few things. Again, I think especially styling and some more modern tech.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, these at one point were the flagship sport touring bikes from each brand, but you got to think about how some of the lower models have progressed and gotten a lot better over the years. So, like the FJR 1300, that was the go-to Yamaha sport tour for a long time, but I spent a whole day on the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus recently, and that bike is, significantly less displacement than this FJR 1300, but I could not think of a more perfect bike to take on an all-day ride. We were on highways, we were on twisty roads, and that CP3 from Yamaha, 890cc motor, has all the power and torque I needed to pull me and a passenger in gear all day long. So yeah, some of the smaller bikes have gotten advanced enough and comfortable enough and powerful enough that you don't need a 1300cc bike to go touring all day long.
Now again, I mean, the whole point really of this video is that we want to see these bikes given more love by the manufacturers, because fundamentally we think that these are all bikes that have potential as long as they keep up with the times, and that's kind of what we want to see here. We want to see some updates, whether it be tech or styling or powertrain. These are motorcycles that could use a little bit of love. And there's some motorcycles that we purposefully kept off of this list because them being old is part of the charm. That's the reason that we didn't include bikes like the TW200 on this list, because I think anyone who's buying the TW200 is buying it because of how old it is. And that might be true a little bit too for the DRZ 400. But, a lot of these bikes have some competition that are more modern.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That being said, if Yamaha brings out a new TW200, we're going to be the first to buy one. So,
yeah, probably.
We like new bikes too. Anyway, there you go. Check out alltfl.com so you don't miss anything. Let us know what your pick is for the bike that needs to be updated the most, and we'll catch you in the next video.